Something in a shoebox gift sent by a 7-year-old American boy changed the life of a Filipino girl. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe to m&rtv and hit the bell so you never miss any upload from us. Also, leave a like right now. If you are a romantic person, this story is sure to melt your heart. This is the story of Tyrell, Wolfe, and Joanna Marchan. This is a story that took a decade and a half to unfold. If you're not a believer of fate and destiny, this story will surely get you to believe in it. The story began with one Christmas where a generous boy wanted to do some charity work. No one ever imagined that this act would lead to a decade-long interaction miles apart by two people. Read on to learn about the details of this amazing story. Christmas is the time of year when one usually exhibits acts of generosity and kindness. Many people give what they can to the poor and needy during this time. In 2000, Tyrell Wolfe was just 7 years of age when he helped pack up shoeboxes with Christmas gifts that consisted of toys, toiletries, and supplies kids in need all the way in the Philippines. The shoebox project that was organized by Operation Christmas Child through Samaritan's Purse was about to change the course of his whole entire life. Destiny is something that one cannot control. You never actually know what the universe has in store for you and what your future might hold. Out of 113 million packages that had been sent to 130 countries since initiation of this project in 1993, it was Joanna Marchan who got the box from Tyrell Wolfe. She was overjoyed to get a shoebox that was packed with gifts since she came from a poor Filipino family. Little did she know that this box would lead her to something even bigger. The packers of these shoebox gifts were requested to keep a photo of themselves in the shoebox gift they sent. Tyrell kept a photo of himself in one of the shoebox packages. This was the photo he placed inside the box that would reach a kid in need. He was not aware that this photo would charm the person receiving it on the other end. When 8-year-old Joanna got her shoebox, she kept the picture safely. What was inside the box? As we all know, Christmas is the time to give. It is when people often give a gift to each other to show appreciation. Some people do this for the folks that are less fortunate. Joanna got to receive a shoebox gift packed with a toy, shampoo, toothpaste, and school supplies that she was in need of. There was a message in the box that she did not see. Joanna and her family were poor, so her parents had no way of taking their kids shopping. That was one big reason why she was extremely happy to receive the box. And the girl was trying to find a way to thank Tyrell Wolfe for the gift that she felt blessed to have received. She then sent a letter of gratitude that never actually reached Tyrell. After 14 years passed, Tyrell did not even accept her friend request on Facebook. Joanna kept the photo of Tyrell that was in the shoebox in a safe place for 14 years. This photo was extra special to her because it came with the much-needed Christmas gift. Even after years passed, her head still wondered where the young boy Tyrell Wolfe could be. Joanna later revealed in an interview questioning whether Tyrell had joined college as she did. After 14 years, even though he did not accept her friend request, Joanna was not about to give up. In 2011, after 2 years since her rejected friend request to Tyrell, Joanna decided to try once more. The first time, 21-year-old Tyrell received a request, he did not know who she was, so he never accepted. Since the same Filipino girl sent him the request again, he got a little curious. He then proceeded toward asking if they knew one another. The response was something fit for a romantic movie. After Tyrell Wolfe did not accept the friend request in 2009, in 2011, however, there was an online message that sparked his curiosity. This woman claimed to know who Wolfe was. She even told him that she had something to tell the surprised fellow. They were living in separate countries, him in the US and she in the Philippines, so how would she know him? He could not think of a single encounter he had ever had with this person who sent him a message on social media. Joanna was quick to give a reply to Tyrell's message on Facebook. She told him about the shoebox that she had received 16 years ago that he had sent to her, which she absolutely cherished. Tyrell had one problem. He did not remember sending any package all the way to the Philippines at all. But after his mother Denise refreshed his memory about him sending a box when he was 7 years old, he only had a realization then. So what happened after? The two of them soon found out that they shared a lot of common interest. Tyrell and Joanna both followed Christian faith and enjoyed Christian music too. They were constantly talking after that point, and very quickly a year passed. Till then, it was all messages on Facebook. Tyrell wanted to move things ahead and go offline too, but they were thousands of miles away, so there was no way they could go on a date, right? After 1 year of sending messages and communicating over social media, the two realized that they actually had a lot of common hobbies and interests. So Tyrell started contemplating flying all the way to Joanna to see if they could perhaps get closer in real life. Since he enjoyed the online messaging, Tyrell soon made the decision to see if the spark would follow through in person. By May 2013, Tyrell saved enough money to fly all the way to Quezon City in the Philippines for a 10-day trip to see Joanna. So here he was on his first foreign flight from his country. Tyrell was super anxious as he was not sure what to expect. There was no guarantee that this person he was meeting even existed at all. International flights are long, so just imagine how fast his heart must have been pumping throughout the flight. But when he finally got to see her in person, everything was worth it. He worked for his dad as a trail and bridge builder at state parks to save money for this trip. So how did he feel? All this time he had spoken to Joanna virtually, so when Tyrell saw her in the flesh, he could not believe his eyes. All this time he thought he was just dreaming her up, so to see her standing in front of him was unbelievable for Tyrell. He fell for her instantly, and even Joanna had the same feelings for him. We have all heard of the term love at first sight, right? This was felt by both of them. So what was running through her mind when Joanna met Tyrell? When Joanna was asked about how she felt, she responded by saying that there was a rush of adrenaline all over her body when she met Tyrell for the first time. The two of them certainly had butterflies in their tummies and were both instantly attracted to one another. The feeling that they both shared must be what books and movies keep on talking about. So how was her family to Tyrell? Tyrell was already aware of the fact that he was meeting a girl from the Philippines who had a family of poor financial background. He never expected that her home would be a 10 by 19 foot property, with little to no furniture, where her whole family slept on the floor sharing one bedroom. This was certainly a stark contrast to how life was for him back in America. After spending some quality time with Joanna's family, he suddenly had a deep realization. Tyler soon realized how privileged he was and that he had very little to complain about as compared to how Joanna's life was. His eyes were opened about how some people struggle to put even just one meal for a day for the family to enjoy. In America, even middle-class families have the luxury of keeping comfortable furniture without making a fuss about it. In the Philippines, Tyrell realized he had taken so many things for granted. This was all thanks to Joanna. Tyrell's time in a foreign land where he got to learn about the luxury he had been blessed enough to have back home in America was coming to an end. His precious time with the woman he had fallen for was ending soon. He was soon about to get back to the States, leaving Joanna behind. Tyrell was gutted to realize that their time was coming to an end. We can pretty much relate to how Tyrell felt when this happened. He would have to save up and be patient if he wanted to see her again. Tyrell had to say his goodbyes as his 10-day trip to see Joanna was ending. Spending time with Joanna and her family was something he would treasure forever. There was no certainty that they would ever see each other again, so the two of them were a little bummed out. He promised to come and see Joanna and her folks again soon. They continued to communicate using Skype. As her tradition goes, Tyrell had to ask permission from Joanna's father in order to officially date her. So what's next? Tyrell then worked in order to go for a second visit to meet Joanna in the Philippines. The first trip happened back in May 2013, but by November he would be able to spend a month with Joanna. He could hardly wait to see her again. On November 27th, Tyrell was now ready to fly thousands of miles to meet the woman he had fallen for. They had spent enough time in order for him to decide if he wanted to marry her. He would need to ask her parents if he was serious about marrying Joanna. Joanna's father, June, could see how happy Tyrell and Joanna were, so he did not have anything against their relationship. Since they were both Christians, he did not see a problem with them being together. So Joanna's dad gave them his blessing and permission when Tyler asked for her hand in marriage. Her mother, however, was a little skeptical, claiming that they were still a bit too young for such a huge commitment. He was determined to prove to Raquel that he was worthy of her daughter. Tyler had to go back home, but now he had a mission. He had to find a way to somehow convince Joanna's mother that he and Joanna were meant to be together, to get married. He soon came up with a plan. He would take his father, Ivan, along with him on the next trip he takes to the Philippines. Tyrell's parents were supportive of the couple, and he believed his dad could get Raquel to be on board too. In May 2014, Ivan and Tyrell were on their way to meet with Joanna's family. When they got to the Philippines, Ivan was welcomed by Joanna's family with open arms. So very quickly, Ivan went ahead with the plan and had a word with Joanna's mom to somehow show that their kids belonged together, that they were ready for marriage. The parents also had to discuss where the two would reside. Would Tyrell and Joanna live in the Philippines or the US? There was still loads of unfinished business that the couple had to take care of still. Joanna's mother was very vocal about how much Ivan's visit had an impact on her decision. She was sure to tell him that the Marchan family were greatly influenced by his decision to accompany his son. Raquel told Ivan this was God's sign, moving her to believe that Joanna and Tyrell were meant to marry each other. She also told him that if he had not come to meet them, she would have intervened and stopped their relationship. Tyrell could finally take a sigh of relief. So what was next? A formal engagement, of course. Taking a long time to decide, Joanna and Tyrell finally agreed and decided to live together in the United States. This, according to them, would be the best option. Tyrell already had a decent job that could take care of their family, plus Joanna's family back in the Philippines. It would have been a waste to leave a good-paying job to settle in the Philippines. However, the U.S. bureaucracy demanded Joanna to get a visa before she could get into their country. So would this be possible? For Joanna, waiting for a while to get her visa clearly made the eager couple anxious. If she was rejected, it would cause grave trouble to the young couple who had just gotten engaged. But finally, on August 19th, Joanna had an interview in Manila at the United States Embassy to see if she could get her visa. She had her documents ready, waiting to see how fate would treat her. Her request was finally approved, which meant she could join Tyrell in the U.S. By September 4th, the two made their way to Midvale, Idaho, to begin a new chapter of their life. But something was missing on their big day. Joanna and Tyrell were not waiting around to plan their wedding. They soon fixed a date for their wedding, which would be held on October 5th, 2014. This was just a month after Joanna stepped foot in the United States of America. The ceremony was held on Wolfe Ranch, and the guest list had over 100 folks. Some people from Joanna's family did not get their U.S. visas approved, and so could not join in the celebration. They had to join the wedding via Skype. The couple had a surprise for Joanna's family on their big day, too. The couple made a decision to hold a second wedding ceremony in the Philippines. Due to the fact that her parents could not join their union, Tyrell and Joanna wanted to hold another wedding on their next visit. With that being said, the two were not sure when their next trip to the Philippines would be. The couple was spending a nice time in the US, and Joanna, being new, was in awe of everything. Joanna saw 8 states, all due to Tyrell's work, that required a lot of traveling. Their second wedding also had another surprise. The twist that Tyrell and Joanna's wedding had was the fact that they requested all of the guests who were attending to set up a shoebox gift to commemorate how they ended up being together in the first place. Tyrell revealed that they wanted these underprivileged kids to know that they were worth something, that people cherish them a lot. It may be a trivial act, but it can lead to some of the most life-changing events. There was another trip they wished to take. Even though Tyrell and Joanna felt the desperate need to celebrate their wedding with Joanna's family in the Philippines, there was no surety that this would happen soon. In the meantime, Joanna was following Tyrell on the trips that his work required. She would always have a scrumptious meal ready for her husband in their RV every evening. The couple traveled to Minnesota, Georgia, and even to famous American writer Laura Ingalls Wilder's home. And then, alas, it was finally time for the young couple to go back to the Philippines. Joanna and Tyrell's second wedding anniversary was soon approaching. This was also the time when the two had managed to return to Joanna's hometown in the Philippines. And on October 2016, Joanna was now a married woman meeting her family for the first time since her wedding. To say that she was overjoyed would be an understatement. Raquel was glad to see that her daughter and her new hubby were doing well. June, too, was glad to see them again. Joanna's family could soon visit the U.S., too, and maybe see snow. The couple's domestic life was also quite unconventional. Joanna got done with her degree at a culinary arts and hospitality course in the Philippines. However, domestic life was something way more complicated than she had ever imagined. She had to take care of the RV while he worked. Even though it was quite hectic to keep everything sorted, she did not complain and accompanied her husband everywhere. Her family was thoroughly pleased to hear about her adjusting well in the U.S. There was another news that this couple had in store. After finally being able to go back to Quezon City, Joanna and Tyrell had some news to share with Joanna's family. It was not just any ordinary announcement. They were about to have a baby. Both Joanna's and Tyrell's parents could not wait to meet their bundle of joy, who was still in Joanna's womb. The due date for the baby to be welcomed would be during springtime. The couple knew this baby would be a blessing and a life changer, but they did not expect this to happen. So on May 15, 2017, Joanna and Tyrell became proud parents to a healthy baby boy. Tyrell had an inkling that their baby would be a son, and he was happy to be right about it. The two of them agreed on naming the little boy Harlan June. The baby's middle name was taken after Joanna's father because the two would not be together if it had not been for him. She was naturally good at being a mother and took the baby everywhere they went. Even if Tyrell Wolfe is still a young man, a lot had happened in his life. On July 15, 2018, was lucky to be able to celebrate his 25th birthday. Although others his age would go out and party, Tyrell was at home with his beautiful wife and son Harlan to celebrate his day of birth. He is indeed lucky and blessed to have been through so much and learned a lot in his life so early on. To think this all started with a shoebox is unbelievable. As Tyrell and Joanna were now starting their own family and were settled, they knew there would be trouble and problems, as that is how life goes. Tyrell got a message that Joanna's sister, Christine, was quite ill. She had asked to see Joanna, and of course, she took the first flight to Manila. And right by her side was Tyrell, her dear husband. Christine Marchan was suffering from partial paralysis, which is deadlier than Kruger syndrome. Tyrell was again proving what kind of a husband and brother-in-law he was. He had spent hours staying by sick Christine's bedside. He even paid for the medication. When Christine's condition worsened, Tyrell and Joanna took the quickest flight from the Philippines and took the whole family to their American home. At the airport were parents Ivan and Rochelle, Tyrell's uncle and close ones waiting patiently for their arrival. The two had a lot of contrast in terms of how they were brought up. It was a big change and adjustment for me, Marchan added. I was raised in the city and now I'm living in the country with much less people and more space, but it's a beautiful place. The two planned to have their second wedding ceremony soon, where both sides of the family could finally join in. Joanna's parents were a priority now. They also made a commitment to pack a shoebox each holiday season with their story kept inside. So Tyrell and Joanna still live in Midvale, Idaho. Every year during the holiday season, the two would recreate Operation Christmas, sending shoebox gifts with a note that had their story written on it. If this is not proof that true love and destiny exists, we don't know what is.